Why do you create?
Two things. To leave a mark. The second is for the women before me. I am the embodiment of the dreams and the aspirations of my mother. She didn't live to live the age that I did. In fact, she didn't live to live the age that her youngest child is living.
Women in media is always an important conversation for me to have, perhaps maybe because my mother is a woman in media. And the challenges, the achievements, the opportunities, and the discussions that are important is something that we always converse about. And so today, I'm happy to be in conversation with a growing voice in media. She's been in radio, TV, and also spans across new media. And she has a beautiful voice, a beautiful face, and you know, anyway, I'm not going to flatter anymore. Judith Atibi, welcome to She Creates.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, hear that voice.
Oh, goodness me. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And also, I must say thank you for the intro. And to be in the same sentence as your mother, Bimbo Lady, means a lot to me. I mean, she knows this by now, but saying this again, it doesn't mean a lot to me.
Well, I mean, flattery, they say sometimes will get you somewhere. Yes. You know, and I've learned the art, to use it in very strategic.
I think I've mastered those as well. I mean, that's what happens in media. You have to master flattery really well.
But let's start with your journey. Not really to tell me how you started, but perhaps maybe why you're in media.
I'd like to think that my journey, or really this thing that I do, is more or less what I was born to do. I was created to be in media. And I've always known that I was going to do that as long as I could. I think what really informed was, I'd always watched television. I also saw your mother and, you know, all the greats, Cyril Stoper too, all of them, you know, Uncle Sonny Rabo and the rest, just on television. And I'd wanted to do that, but I saw it interesting. I loved reading. I loved how the stories were told. I loved, you know, news, but it never really called to me until radio. Radio was really what started it all. And it was listening to, I don't know who it was at this time, and this person, it was a rough day. There wasn't any lights. The usual Lagos in the 90s, there's never any power or electricity. And it was the powered radio and the batteries, you know, with the transistor radio at the back. And it was late, you know, very wet July/August. And it had rained, and I was very young. I was lying on the floor. I don't come from a wealthy background. And that voice had just finished playing the last song and had said, you know, it was just saying something. And I was lying in bed, or rather on the floor, and I'd pictured myself as a young girl, as a young woman, doing that same thing that voice was doing to that child that was on the floor. And I just said, that's going to be me. That's what I was created to do. That's what I'm on earth to do. And as a child, growing up, my father would say, oh, I think you should continue, you know, do this and do that. And they charted this whole life for me. I'm like, no, I want to work on radio. I want to do that, you know. And so for me, it was telling stories that matter, connecting to people that matter, but more than anything, a desire to be a representation of the women that have come before me.
So I mentioned you've been in radio, you've been in TV, and now, of course, new media, as they call it. So you've worn many hats.
Yes.
You're an anchor, you're also a producer, you're also a host, you're a MC. You're a moderator. I think maybe you might be an author at some point in your life.
Don't do that.
But let's not stay there, because what I want to ask you is, like, what's the common thread that ties all these dots together for you?
It has to be creativity, right? There's a passion to tell stories, and there's a passion to bring voices to life, right? To bring, the thing is, right? I don't take for granted the fact that I'm in media. I take it with a huge burden. It comes with a huge burden and responsibility. And I think that I have very quickly identified what my role is. And my role is to tell the stories of the voices that are ordinarily, or the perspective that is ordinarily not looked at. And I think that's what's important, right? So every single time I get to wear the hat of a producer, it's always about bringing all sides onto the table to tell it from our perspective as
balanced reporting.
Just very balanced reporting, and staying true to the ethics of what it is in terms of journalism and broadcast journalism, right? So to tell the who, the when, the where, and answer all those questions. But most importantly, say it as it is, right? Because even if you're telling the stories, as a producer, sometimes you can play a little bit. And that's when creativity comes in. You can play a little bit with how you're telling the stories, but most importantly, it's about the angles and the voices that you're bringing and the perspective that you're bringing. And I think it's very important, for me as a woman being in media, to be able to tell those voices. It's very important for me.
Do you feel like you have to be a different person because you're a woman in media? Where are those gray areas that you have to cover? What are those moments or those scenarios or situations where you feel like you have to cover yourself? You've got to be, you've got to act a little differently so you can be perceived in a different way. And then there's another question I'm going to ask you, and you'll answer later, but this actually leads into being able to lean into your femininity,
right,
but still be taken seriously as a media professional.
It's hard to juggle the two. It's a juggling tasks to do, to be able to be taken seriously. Because I don't think it's just media. I think in every profession, in every field, a woman has to metamorphose and become this, force of nature, and this person who
be masculine,
and be very masculine, right? And it's hard. It's very tough. And I'm not that person deep down inside. Deep down, I'm very soft, and I just rather lean in the femininity in quotes. But as soon as if you want to be taken seriously, if you don't want to take no for an answer, if you want your voice to be heard, you have to continually fight for that. And that means that you have to metamorphose and become this thing and be perceived as this thing. And the truth of the matter is, if you're calling the shots, if you know what's right, or again, I don't want to do this, but sometimes you have to do it extra harder just for the way I look like, how I look like. It's where I look like they already take me as face value. So I'm working 3 times harder than the next person in the room. I don't want to be taken at face value. I want to be taken seriously. And then immediately when they're talking about, well, she really knows what she's doing, then they become surprised, and then they become tough as well. It's like, who are you to tell us what to do? So it's hard. It's very hard to do the two. And I don't think that, I think that there is strength in able to be able to balance the act of being feminine and masculine at the same time. I think that for you to achieve what you need to do, you must learn how to balance that act. To be feminine when it's needed to be, and to be rash when it's time. Exactly. So, and being able to do that is what's going to get you through the door and get the job done.
Get the job
done.
You talked about people who made you want to become, a woman in media, which you are today. Where's the place of mentorship for you? Have you received, direct mentorship from people who you've looked up to? Is it something that you're still open to, or you're willing to approach? And for the younger, women in media, is it something that they should be considering as well as an important part of their journey in the industry?
So my journey is very peculiar because I am learning to not be a one-man island, if that makes any sense, or one-woman island. But that's only because I don't know social cues. You could do something and it would be like maybe 12 hours after I realized, oh, that's what they meant. Because I don't know social cues. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know, it's my brain. It's the way I was wired. So what I did instead of to approach people, because I am morbidly shy and I just cannot approach people, I watched people from a distance and I studied them, right? So I studied their style and their transition, I'm very much good at people watching, right? So I just study all of the greats and all the people that I aspire, in terms, and I watch what they do, and I pretty much just put that into how I work, So studying was not an issue for me. So but the question here is, would I have gone further if I had a mentor? The answer would be yes. Right. But because, again, I don't have the social cues, I don't understand how that worked, and I was morbidly shy. I just, walked my way.
I was gonna say, clawed
my way, out of the dark, right? Because I just didn't know. So if I had to go back in time, hopefully I would have learned the social cues and how best to properly network and meet those women and talk to those women. So I remember about 3 or 5, maybe last weekend, I was talking to a PR exec, and I was just talking to her, and then she goes, I was like, I should really start looking at mentorship. And she says, well, mentorship actually works both ways. Judith, what are you willing to bring to the table?
Exactly.
And I said, sleep, because all I do is sleep, So when she said that, I was like, okay, I don't know. What do they want? It's like, exactly, that people talk about wanting mentors, but what are you willing to bring to that? Because this person is investing their time, their years, their knowledge, plus their contacts as well, and getting you through the door. What can you give them back in return, And I said, well, I'm a loyal person. And she says, Judith, I need you to stop joking around and get serious until you can tell me what you can bring to the table, and then we can have that conversation. But again, me being morbidly shy, I drop the conversation and move on to something else, because it's like, yeah, I'm gonna meet you and be like, it's my brain. Moving on, But on the flip side, and having mentees, I count myself very lucky to have women who slide into my DMs, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn, and they would be like, "Well, I watched you. I like your voice. I've seen your journey. Hopefully, I can get to learn from you." And I've been able to speak to a couple of them. And it's always been a situation where I'd ask them to come over and then shadow me, or we could talk about, what they want to do. They can call me at any time. So it's kind of indirect, but not really like a synergy, sync sort of situation.
So just staying on the conversation around whether you would like a mentor or not would like a mentor, or even just your experience, they say sometimes, that media is still very well controlled, so to speak, by men. It's not that I personally have a problem with that. I think that the challenge perhaps maybe is that there is less of a balanced gender view about certain conversations and discussions and topics. And it's not so much about wanting to have, or the necessity to have more women in leadership positions. I think that maybe we should have more men who are more understanding and open about having gender discussions, gender lens discussions about whatever the situation or the scenario is, so that it's not just, it's only going to benefit women. No, it's going to benefit us all. And do you find that, within the space that you're in, that you're able to see a balanced view, or even see like a balanced, industry? Is that going to happen, do you think? And is that something that you see now?
Well, I think that equity or balance in media representation or in the roles of leadership can be achieved, but the truth of the matter is that it would not be equal in its sense. And the reason why is this: male allyship is not truly ally. See, the thing is, right, there's something sinister about a male ally, because inherently it's about what they stand to gain, when you think about it, because the business in and of itself is capitalism, right? It's a profit-driven, business. They would only tilt towards equity and gender balance if it profits the organization. That's what it is. So male allyship,
not because they believe that that's the way to go.
That's not that. I don't think it is. And also, you also have to think about Nigeria, the media space that is Nigeria in and of itself. As you rightfully put, all of the leading, leading media houses are male-owned and male-dominated when you come all the way from the boardroom. And I have worked for businesses that are owned by women as well, to be fair. But the long-lasting ones, the one who have stood the test of time, are mostly held by men. And you know why they're still there? Is because the boardrooms, the people who sponsor, the advertisers, you know, the partners are all men. If that was to tilt, it is only because those who are in those rooms giving them money are the one who are, those ones are women. Do you get what I mean? So I don't think it's media itself. I think that it's capitalism itself. And I think that we're heavily patriarchal. Until that changes, we're still going to see, you know, that. And that change can only come if it benefits the top guns. So male allyship equals capitalism. So. That's what that's what I see it as.
No. I mean, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. You see it that way. I've always said, to be honest, that I'm of the opinion anyway, that you can't have equality of outcomes. You will never have equality of outcomes. You can give people equal opportunities. You can give them the same opportunities. You can say, you know what, we're going to pay you the same wage. We're going to give you the same opportunities. If you work 2 years as a man and if you work 2 years as a woman, you have the same, you can climb up the same ladder. But you're never really going to get the same outcome.
Yes.
Because typically men and women don't think the same and don't make the same kind of choices.
One, and then the other is also the challenges that women face. And you know what I mean? Like, the trajectory are completely different.
Yes.
If I'm lucky to be unmarried without a child, if you were to put a contemporary of myself standing side by side, she'd have to think about, and she's married with children, she'd have to think about so many things on variables. I got nothing holding me back. So I can speed through the gate, no problem. I'm just waiting. Give me the matching order. I'm ready to go. The other person, my other counterpart, same age, same trajectory, she's gonna be, you know,
a bit
right,
more cautious,
you know what I mean?
a bit more laid back, more considerate.
She's cutthroat about it, right? Me, on the other hand, I'm cutthroat because I got nothing to lose. You know, there's nothing holding me back. I ain't thinking about nobody except myself. So I'm going through the door, right? So that's what it is like, right? So when you think about the male itself, the male counterpart, and think about the women, how many of, I mean, there are women, there's Eugenia Abu, there's also your mother, there's, you know, the other women who trusted the cause as well. But how many of the other women who started out with them had to stop? If you ask your mother, she's going to reel out names.
Of course.
That we forgotten about.
There is even the underhanded conversation around, okay, fine, you're young, you're unmarried, and you say you can go the extra mile to get what it is you want to get. But then on the flip side, there's, like I said, all these conversations and all these, you know, side comments, and then there are these side looks, and then there is the constant, you know, quote unquote temptation. There's the calls from the people in high places. These are also blocks in a sense. So when you say nothing really is holding you back, there are some things that could be holding
absolutely
that could
correct.
be making you rethink the you know, maybe certain steps or certain moves that you need to make, because you also have to be really careful. The media is the media.
And there's landmines and everywhere, right? But also, I'm so glad you said this, because ordinarily, as what we're seeing now, we're seeing more, you know, morning shows are hosted. It's now dual hosting, a guy and a lady, of male and female, right? But also, the conversation is still, when you the dominating conversation in media is mostly politics, right? And the people who make the news are mostly men, right? And they'd rather pick up a phone to speak to a male broadcast journalist than speak to a female broadcast journalist, right? And even if they were to make the news of the female broadcast journalist, you have to have a long leg. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be somebody who's not saying, again, not saying anyone is doing anything, right? Don't come for me. You know, not saying that, but what I'm saying is that it's harder for us, right? It's like, oh, how are you? They'd rather be, no more like, nah, and then be with the, it's a boys club. I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's a boys club. To make the news and to be that person who's cutthroat is in there it's a boys club. So whenever I see a woman who's there with the microphone trying to get in the face of the politicians, we're like, yes, I saw this happen. Like, that's my girl. You know, she's fighting tooth and nail. Yeah.
I hear that. I love your voice, Judith. I've told you this many times before.
Thank you.
Just the way that you sound I can hear you on radio.
Yeah.
And I think if I was watching or if I was listening to a TV program and not looking at the visuals, I would know that it was you in a heartbeat. And I wonder, like, when you step onto a stage, when you step in front of a camera, when you sit behind a microphone, what's the one thing you want your audiences to feel?
Warmth. Authenticity. Just be authentic, right? But most importantly, warmth, right? I feel like that's my soul, right? If my soul was to have a taste, it would be caramel. You know, warm.
Chocolate and caramel.
So warmth and authenticity, you know, there's so much to it. But also the aftertaste of caramel is mind-blowing. That, that is, you know, that's really good. So I think warmth is what comes to mind. You know, I want people to listen and come away from that. Oh, that felt so good. Yeah.
And the extra question beyond that is, why do you create?
2 things. To leave a mark. I just don't want to come and go. You know, and then the second is for the women before me. I am the embodiment of the dreams and the aspirations of my mother. She didn't live to live the age that I did. In fact, she didn't live to live the age that her youngest child is living for my auntie, who didn't have a child and whose pursuit for a child took her away from us too soon. For the other auntie, who also the same. So I think my voice is a collection of all those women's voices. And so I am their living legacy. I am their embodiment. I am their, you know, their hopes and their aspirations, their dreams come true. And that's why I say I want to leave here with a mark. I must leave this place screaming, you know. You must hear my cry from 1,000 miles away.
We want to leave with your song unsung.
Yeah, exactly. For the women before me who weren't able to do that, I am their inspiration and aspiration and dreams come true. So
I have one final interesting question for you. If you could sit down with any woman in the entire world,
hey,
to have a conversation with, and why?
Okay, is this thing on me?
Yeah,
listen.
Yeah, that's your camera right now.
Manifesting Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie for the longest time. Listen, connoisseur of literature, African literature. Like, I love books, right? And I have been manifesting her for as long as I live. Please, all right? Narrative landscape, make it happen. That's what I gotta say first. And then Christian Amanpour.
She's powerful, charismatic, commands the stage every single time. I know.
Oh my God. Christian Amanpour. That's all. And Kamala. I like her. There's a list, all right? There's top 3 for now. I got more. If you bring me back to She Creates 2.0, maybe I got another list. But those are top 3. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Christian Amanpour, and Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Awesome. Judith Atibi, it's been my pleasure.
I do my best.
Yes, you do your best. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks. Yeah,
Thank you.
You're one of my really, really good friends.
Of course.
And I see great things in your future because of what you believe for yourself. And really appreciative that you've joined us on She Creates.
Thank you for the invitation as well, for having me. I'm
deeply thankful. And this is In Conversation with She Creates.
Thank you so much.